अस्सलाम वालेकुम नाज़रीन, आप देख रहे हैं दी इसरार कसाना शो। और आज का जो शो है हम वीडियो लिंक पे बात करेंगे। हमारे साथ मौजूद होंगे कनाडा के हाई कमिश्नर इन पाकिस्तान पेरी जॉन कैल्डरवुड, और हम उनसे बात करेंगे। एंड रियली आई एम वेरी obliged एंड थैंकफुल टू द हाई कमिश्नर इन पाकिस्तान from Canada, Mr. Perry John Calderwood. Mr. High Commissioner, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate that. And I was supposed to see you when I was in Pakistan a couple of months ago, but it didn't happen. But now, my first question would be that what is your initial background, your educational background, your career so far, and have you met some challenges and how did you cope with them?
Well, good morning. Assalamu alaikum. I'm delighted to be on your program and congratulations on your program. I'm from Ottawa originally. I was born in Ottawa and I'm a career Foreign Service officer. I joined the diplomatic service 31 years ago, and I've been fortunate to spend much of my career abroad in very interesting countries. Pakistan is my 8th assignment abroad and my first assignment in Asia. I arrived here some 8 months ago. I've spent most of my career in Africa and in Latin America, and I served in Moscow many years ago. But it's very exciting for me to come to a new part of the world to discover Pakistan and this region.
Mr. High Commissioner, talking about your career, it's fascinating to know that. The second thing is about your assuming the charge. When did you assume the charge of High Commissioner in Pakistan? And what have been the lows and highs of your assignment so far?
Well, I've been in Pakistan for nearly 8 months now, and frankly, it's been a very positive and enjoyable experience. I have found Pakistanis very welcoming. Everyone from government contacts to the private sector, civil society, and all of the many other Pakistanis that I meet are very welcoming. So I wouldn't say that I have great challenges. On the contrary, I find it's a very friendly and supportive environment. I suppose my greatest challenge is simply to identify in which areas I can be most effective in building further the existing bilateral relationship between our two countries.
Mr. Calderwood, Pakistan, as you know, is a very diverse country and full of great potential. Have you found so much diversity as far as your assumption of office is concerned, and how did you go about it?
Well, certainly one of my priorities upon arrival was to travel as much in Pakistan, because I think it's important in any country for a diplomat to travel, meet as many people as possible, and visit all of the different regions of the country in order to understand the country and to identify areas where we can work together. In the 8 months that I've been in Pakistan, I've had the opportunity to travel to Karachi on 3 occasions. I've been to Lahore a couple of times. I've been to Multan and Bahawalpur and to the Swat Valley. And I look forward to visiting Peshawar and Gilgit-Baltistan in the months ahead. As you have mentioned, I find Pakistan a beautiful country, a very diverse country. Each region is special in its own way. There's tremendous cultural diversity, linguistic diversity, and I think great opportunities throughout the country. I have found many partners in Pakistan keen to work with Canada, starting with the Pakistani government, with which we have a very cordial and constructive relationship. But also I've met with many private sector contacts, chambers of commerce and individual companies who are keen to develop business ties with Canada. I've met with many civil society people who are doing very impressive work in many areas. I've met many students, many academics, and many other people. So on the whole, I find Pakistanis very keen to build the relationship with Canada, and there's certainly no shortage of interested people and organizations, including, of course, the Pakistani government itself, which are keen to work with Canada.
Mr. High Commissioner, what fascinates you the most about Pakistan? You know, the culture, the arts, the food, the language, and do you know some words of language of Urdu or not yet? And if you do, what are those words? Can you please share with us?
The chosen mangoes are one of my favorite foods, and I'm enjoying them very much here in Pakistan. मुझे पाकिस्तानी गाना पसंद है, मैं कुछ उर्दू बोल सकता हूँ. I'm studying Urdu. I began in December and I'm making some progress, but I still have a long way to go. But I'm enjoying the Urdu very much, and I hope that in a year's time I will be able to do an interview like this in Urdu rather in English. But I'm enjoying all aspects of Pakistan. The cuisine is wonderful. I'm impressed by the tremendous diversity of the country. I understand there are 70 or 80 different languages in Pakistan, and with each language there's a culture that goes along with it. So I'm enjoying it very much and discovering a lot of wonderful things, and I very much look forward to continue to explore and learn more about Pakistan and its rich culture and its history.
Mr. High Commissioner, Canada has a sizable presence in Pakistan, including the Embassy, High Commission, and the Trade Commissioner in Karachi, and then there are honorary consulates in Karachi and Lahore. How are you, making a balance out of it? Are these offices intertwined, interlinked, and do you find some difficulty in creating balance in all those offices?
Well, that's a good question. We are in fact a single operation in Pakistan. The High Commission is here in Islamabad. The Trade Office in Karachi is basically a satellite office of the High Commission. We have the Trade Office there because Karachi, of course, is the economic and financial center of Pakistan, so it's important that we have a permanent presence on the ground. So we do have the small Trade Office there, and as I said earlier, I do travel to Karachi regularly, as do many of my colleagues based in Islamabad. We are also fortunate to have two very distinguished gentlemen serving as honorary consuls in Karachi and in Lahore. The role of the honorary consul, and it is an honorary position, is to help us on consular emergencies, particular consular files, but also both of our honorary consuls are very generous more broadly in helping us and introducing me and colleagues to interlocutors in Sindh and Punjabi province, respectively. They're tremendous assets that we have, and we're very grateful for their support.
Mr. High Commissioner, I know for the fact that Canada has been supporting Pakistan's development sector for many years. The education sector and the other sectors related to the development area, Pakistan has been, very obliged to have Canadian support. How are you managing that, and what is the latest situation regarding the development sector?
Well, certainly one of my priorities in Pakistan is to promote the trade and investment, business relations between our two countries. I'm very pleased to say that last year, bilateral trade between Pakistan and Canada reached about $1.5 billion, which is the highest level it's ever been historically. But that said, and as you inferred in your question, I think there's potential to be doing a lot more, both in terms of trade, but also investment and economic partnerships. I've been very active in the short time that I've been here in reaching out to the private sector in Pakistan and also to the private sector in Canada, with a view to identifying areas and potential projects where there are opportunities for Canadian business. You mentioned some of the most interesting sectors. One of them is renewable energy. Pakistan has a great need to improve its electricity generation capacity, and it is a priority of the Pakistani government. There are Canadian companies that have great technology and experience in the energy sector, and I'm delighted that there are Canadian companies looking very seriously at investments, for example, in solar energy in Pakistan. Another sector where I see great potential is mining. Pakistan has great mining resources. Canada is one of the leading mining countries in the world. We have a century of experience and expertise in responsible mining. So I hope in the years ahead that we'll see further collaboration in that sector. Agriculture is another important one. Pakistan already has a well-developed agricultural sector, but I think Canada has a lot to offer Canadian companies in terms of value-added food processing and creating new products and marketing and exporting your delicious mangoes and many other agricultural products in Pakistan. Another area where I see great potential is ICT information and communications technology. I expect to see great growth in that area in Pakistan in the years ahead as Pakistan develops, and Canadian companies have a lot to offer there. I'm delighted that in May there are plans for an ICT forum in Toronto, and there will be a delegation of Pakistani business people traveling to Canada to meet with Canadian counterparts. One more area where I see great potential is infrastructure. As Pakistan grows in the years ahead, there will be a need to build more roads, airports, ports, and the whole transport infrastructure. Canada, as a vast country, as we are, we have great experience and very strong companies in infrastructure sector as well.
Mr. High Commissioner, can you please give us the details about Canada Fund for Local Initiatives, CFLI? How is that initiative going on and how important it is?
Yes, indeed, Canada and Pakistan have had a partnership that dates back to the early days of Pakistan's independence in the area of development cooperation. At the present time, the value of Canada's development cooperation programming in Pakistan is about $67 million a year. We're focused on 4 areas, principally at this time. One is the health sector, another is education, with an emphasis on training of primary school teachers. A third area is women's economic empowerment, and a fourth area is to help Pakistan strengthen its democratic governance, which you referred to in your question. I'm pleased that in recent years, Canada has provided significant assistance to help reform the Electoral Commission of Pakistan and to help strengthen Pakistan's capacity to deliver free and fair elections. And as you know, there are elections coming up again in Pakistan in 2018, and I do expect that Canada will continue to identify ways to be supportive through the Electoral Commission and in other ways to strengthen Pakistan's democracy. I should mention one other area in terms of our development cooperation. Canada does provide humanitarian assistance to Pakistan, focused primarily on refugees from Afghanistan and internally displaced people who have been displaced by upheaval and conflicts in recent years in Pakistan. So that's another area of our development cooperation programming. The Canada Fund for Local Initiatives is a program that we have in Pakistan as well as in many other countries around the world. It's a small fund. In Pakistan, it's about $200,000 a year. And each year with these funds, the High Commission invites proposals from Pakistani civil society for specific projects, mostly in the area of the promotion of human rights and human rights values. And then we have a committee in the High Commission that reviews all of the applications and gives grants from this $200,000 budget. So for the fiscal year that is just starting now, in April 1st, we will soon be launching the Canada Fund for this year and inviting Pakistani civil society organizations to submit proposals in the priority areas that...
Mr. Calderwood, Pakistan has a very bad endemic of polio, which is endangering the very population of the youth in Pakistan. Since 2014, Canada has provided Pakistan with $60 million so far. Do you see any concrete results of that?
As I mentioned earlier, health has been one of the priority areas in recent years of Canada's development cooperation in Pakistan. And in fact, polio has really been the highest priority within the health sector. I am very encouraged by the progress that has been made. Last year, in 2016, there were only a handful of cases of poliovirus, of transmission of poliovirus in Pakistan. If you look back 3 or 4 years, there were several hundred cases. So we're definitely moving in the right direction. And I am optimistic and confident that very soon, perhaps in the months ahead or in the next year or so, we will bring transmission of polio down to 0 in Pakistan. This will be a tremendous accomplishment. Polio, of course, is a terrible disease that has affected so many people in Pakistan and in many other countries, and it's going to be a tremendous accomplishment when we eradicate this disease once and for all from Pakistan and from the world. I should add that Canada's programming in this area is in support of the government of Pakistan, and much of the funding we provide is through the World Health Organization and UNICEF, through multilateral organizations that have an infrastructure on the ground to work together with the Pakistani government in a very cohesive and organized campaign to achieve the goal of eliminating forever the transmission of polio.
Mr. High Commissioner, Pakistan has been fighting the war on terror for the last decade or so. And it has launched many operations, including the Zarb-e-Azb and Raddul Fasad and others. Is Canada supporting Pakistan on these initiatives? Because Pakistan should not be fighting this war alone. And so far as I know, you've been in touch with the Pakistani government. Recently, you met with the Pakistan National Security Advisor, Mr. Janjua. So please explain if there are any concrete steps the Canadian government is taking alongside Pakistan.
Well, as you've said, certainly my understanding in speaking to many experts and officials in Pakistan is that great progress has been made in recent years in combating terrorism in Pakistan. Sadly, there still are incidents, but things are certainly moving very much in a positive direction. I also agree with your statement wholeheartedly that it's essential for all countries around the world to work together to combat terrorism. Terrorist groups do not know and recognize international borders, and it's essential that the governments and the peoples of the world cooperate as closely as possible together to support each other and not allow terrorists to take advantage of borders or lack of cooperation in their terrorist activities. We did recently have a working level delegation come from Canada to meet with Pakistani officials with a view to exploring areas where we may work with Pakistan, including to help Pakistan further develop its capacity to combat terrorism. And I do expect that there will be new programming in the future. We have, in recent years, provided funding through the UN specifically to combat drug trafficking in Pakistan. So there already has been some support in place, but I do expect that there will be more going forward. With regard to the National Security Advisor, you're correct. I had a very good meeting with him last Tuesday, and in the context of that meeting, we discussed how Canada and Pakistan can work together, including with other countries, to ensure the best cooperation possible to combat terrorism in Pakistan, in Canada, and indeed around the world.
Mr. Calderwood, Canada is number 2 on the Social Progress Index in the world, which makes it one of the most advanced countries in the world, which actually makes people think to emigrate to Canada. So there are a lot of opportunities to emigrate here, but there are some questions regarding emigration. You know, how to maintain the balance between the image of being the number 2 in the world and then people thinking of immigration to Canada. How to create that balance as a delicate balance? Is that tough for you?
Well, as I say many times in my public speaking in Pakistan, Canada, of course, is very much a country built on immigration. It's a country of multiculturalism, and I'm delighted that Pakistan is in fact one of our leading sources of immigrants. It's among the top 5 source countries of immigrants to Canada in recent years, and we have a community of 300,000, perhaps more, Canadians of Pakistani heritage, either immigrants themselves or the children or grandchildren of Pakistanis. So I'm delighted that this is an important part of our relationship, this people-to-people flow from Pakistan to Canada, and we see that many of these Pakistani Canadians or Canadians of Pakistani heritage play a very useful and very important role in strengthening ties between our two countries. These are people who know Pakistan because they were born here or their parents were born here. They speak Urdu, Punjabi, and other languages. They know how business is done in Pakistan. And they're also Canadians, so they know how Canada works. They have their network of contacts in Canada as well. So they're ideally placed to strengthen ties between our two countries.
Mr. Calderwood, people have actually complained about the hardships they face during the visa process in Islamabad, Pakistan. I know it's very impossible kind of a thing to satisfy each and every applicant, but since your assumption of the office, have you done so far something regarding this visa process and to make it more easy and to facilitate the applicants?
Well, I know our colleagues in the Immigration Department, who are obviously responsible for the visa program around the world, are doing their utmost to ensure the most efficient and quick visa processing possible. I'm pleased that progress has been made. At the current time, the average processing time for visa applications is around a month, which is much quicker than it was a couple of years ago. So I think very positive results are being achieved by our Immigration Department. The immigration officers who process visa applications, of course, consider each application on its merits. Many visa applications are approved, some are not approved because the applicants don't meet all of the criteria or cannot demonstrate that their travel is legitimate or that they have funds to cover their travel. But I'm pleased that large numbers of Pakistanis, of course, do secure their visas and do travel to Canada.
Mr. High Commissioner, you know Pakistan has a youth bulge. There are a lot of youth who want to go out of the country and go to different countries to educate themselves, Canada being the number one destination nowadays especially. How are you facilitating that situation, and to make their dream come true, do you have any concrete plan?
Well, I'm delighted that the number of Pakistanis studying in Canada is growing quickly. The latest figures I've seen is over 4,000 Pakistanis currently studying in Canada. And I think in the years ahead we will continue to see further growth. When I meet Pakistani students and visit universities, I hear great enthusiasm about the possibility of studying in Canada. I'm pleased that a number of Canadian universities are active in coming to Pakistan and providing information to prospective students, and the High Commission does its best to support them in reaching out to universities and to students with a view to informing potential students of opportunities in Canada.
Mr. Calderwood, Canada 150 celebrations have been kicked off throughout the world. Obviously, you must have some plans in Pakistan. Do you want to share with us those plans about Canada 150 celebrations?
Well, here in Islamabad in February, we hosted a reception with many of our contacts here in town, government and private sector and others, to launch this very special year in Canada, 150 years since Confederation. And I should note it's a very special year in Pakistan, of course, because it's the 70th anniversary of Pakistan's independence. One of the interesting ways that we launched this year of celebrations was by inaugurating an inukshuk on the grounds of the High Commission, an inukshuk made of soapstone. So it's a very interesting combination of a symbol of Canada, and particularly a symbol of the Canadian North and of the Inuit people of northern Canada, but made with soapstone, a material found here in Pakistan. We look forward to further opportunities during the course of the year to celebrate this very special year, both in Canada
Mr. High Commissioner,
and in Pakistan.
Pakistani Nobel laureate Malala Yousafzai was visiting Canada recently, and she visited the Parliament. She met with the Prime Minister here, and her visit was very high-profile visit. Do you see any chances of Pakistan-Canada relationship being built under the vision of Malala and Trudeau partnership? And do you think the visit of Malala will go a long way in creating awareness regarding the issues like education and social sector, etc., etc.? And do you think these visits play a very positive role in playing the role of medium and creating a balance between the two countries?
Well, I think the day of Malala's visit, which was about a week ago now, was a very special day in Canada and a special day in Pakistan. I was delighted to see how widely the ceremony was covered in the Pakistani media, and many Pakistani friends and contacts have mentioned it to me. It was a very special day in the sense that Malala is just the sixth person to receive this very special honor of honorary Canadian citizenship. I understand she's the youngest person as well to receive it. She spoke very eloquently to a joint session of the House of Commons and the Senate, the Canadian Parliament, and I think she spoke very eloquently and represents a tremendous symbol of hope and commitment to some very important causes, in particular the importance of education, especially for girls, and she's also a very distinguished advocate for the rights and the welfare of refugees. So I think her visit to Canada was very, very memorable, and I think all Pakistanis should be very proud of Malala, and I think all Canadians are very proud that she was bestowed this very special honor of honorary Canadian citizenship.
Mr. High Commissioner, over 400 teachers have been benefited from the Canada-Pakistan Debt for Education initiative. It's a huge initiative, and I think it is a very positive initiative. Can you please
this
give
is
us details
what we
about
call
it?
a debt swap initiative. Back in 2008, a decision was taken jointly by the Canadian and Pakistani governments that Pakistan, instead of repaying about $130 million in development loan debts, instead of repaying it to Canada, the government of Pakistan would invest these funds in education, and specifically in the area of teacher training, especially at the primary level. The project has been running since 2008. It will wrap up this year, so it's almost completed. But my understanding is that, in fact, many thousands of Pakistani teachers have benefited from training under this program, and by extension, virtually millions of Pakistani children have benefited from teachers who are better trained and better prepared to teach in their classrooms. I believe there still is a lot more to be done. I'm not an expert on education, but I do hear from many Pakistani friends and contacts concern that there is a still requirement for much effort to improve the standard of education, especially in the public schools in Pakistan. And I think it's something very important, because it is vital in any society that all children, whether they're in public schools or private sectors, have access to quality education so that they have the opportunity to develop and realize their full potential.
Mr. High Commissioner, there is a huge Pakistani diaspora here in Canada. Do you think, and do you have any plan to utilize that diaspora in Pakistani perspective and Canadian perspective, and how to get their input and take it to the next level?
Yes, as I said earlier, I think they're really key allies for the High Commission. They're very important partners for us in building the relationship between our two countries. As I said earlier, these are people who know both countries, and I think are uniquely placed to help strengthen the relationship. And in fact, I see many of these people, Canadians of Pakistani heritage, playing a very active and in many cases a leadership role in promoting trade and investment and other ties between our two countries. I receive many of them here at the High Commission, and I'm impressed by their enthusiasm and commitment to promote ties between our two countries. I would add that on the whole, the Pakistani community in Canada is very well integrated into Canadian society, very successful people. We have several parliamentarians in the House of Commons and Senate who are of Pakistani heritage. There are many very successful businessmen and women who were born in Pakistan or are of Pakistani heritage. If you go to Canadian universities, you'll meet among the professors many distinguished Pakistanis. So I do think it's a community that is making a tremendous contribution to Canada and the Canadian mosaic, and also a great contribution to building the relationship between our two countries. One thing that has struck me in my time in Pakistan is how well Pakistanis are informed about Canada. I meet many people who are aware of what's going on in Canada, Canadian politics, Canadian society. I think a lot of this is through social media, of course. But the reaction I find from Pakistanis overwhelmingly to Canada is a very positive one. And I think one of the key elements of that is the commitment of Canada, including Canada's Prime Minister, but also more broadly Canadian society, our commitment to multiculturalism, the fact that Canada is a society that in the past and in the present and in the future welcomes immigrants, welcomes students from all around the world, welcomes visitors. And I think many Pakistanis see Canada as a model in that regard. Canada is seen as a country, and correctly seen as a country, that has been very successful in integrating people of different languages and different faiths, different traditions from different parts of the world, integrating them together into a very peaceful and prosperous and harmonious society. As Prime Minister Trudeau has said, Canadians view diversity as a strength, and I think in that regard we're a country that is a very much a shining example for other countries around the world who struggle, in some cases, with challenges in terms of integrating immigrants or achieving national cohesion in societies that are diverse.
Mr. High Commissioner, thank you very much for your time. It was wonderful having you here on my show. I think it will go a long way in creating the goodwill among the Canadians and the Pakistanis here in Canada. And in future as well, we will be able to, give you the response from here. And you're always welcome to be on our show in future. And I really want to thank you and your team to make this happen. Thank you very much for your time.
Well, thank you for the interview. It's really been a pleasure to chat with you. I think my final message would be to all Pakistanis is that they should be very proud of their country, of its rich culture, its history, and its heritage. And I think Pakistan can have and will have a great future. I think there's great potential in Pakistan. And when I meet young Pakistanis especially, I'm very much inspired by their energy, enthusiasm, and their ambition to see Pakistan realize its full potential. As Canada's High Commissioner, my commitment is to do my best, working with my team here in Pakistan, to strengthen the ties between Canadians and Pakistanis. As we've discussed, I think there's tremendous potential in many areas, and as I've said, I believe that Canadians of Pakistani heritage are and can and will continue to play a very important role as partners with us in those efforts to achieve the full potential of the relationship between our two countries.
Thank you very much for your time. नाज़रीन, ये था आज का प्रोग्राम, और इस तरह के जो शोज़ हैं वो हम करते रहा करेंगे इंशाल्लाह। और जो कैनेडियन हाई कमिश्नर हैं पाकिस्तान में, इनका ये जो शो है ये हम आपको मुख्तलिफ पार्ट्स में दिखाएंगे, और इंशाल्लाह इसके अलावा भी हम प्रोग्राम जो है इस तरह के करते रहेंगे। इसरार कसाना को इजाज़त दीजिए, जल्दी मुलाकात होगी इंशाल्लाह। अल्लाह हाफ़िज़।